The scene shifts to a supermarket, where an employee is promoting a newly launched bottle of Lan Xian wine from the Ren Xian Tang Company's Qi cultivation powder line. After your blood essence reaches 0.8, using this to consolidate it is the best. Moreover, this type is specially designed for female martial artists. Right now, there's a promotion. Buy this bottle for just 30,000 yuan. The woman immediately told the employee to wrap it up for her. Her daughter happily hugged her mother's arm, promising that she would definitely get first place in the upcoming mock exam. As Lucian watched them leave, he fell into thought. That bottle of wine cost 30,000 yuan. His parents worked day and night just to afford a 3,000 yuan Qi cultivation powder. The stronger a martial artist, the more money they could earn, and with more money, they could further cultivate their strength. It was a clear demonstration of how difficult it was for a poor kid to excel. Lucian thought of his younger sister, Hannah. She was a true genius, possessing the talent to change her own destiny, but she was held back by a brother like him, having to share the scarce resources. He thought about his past life, how he couldn't accept the fact that he was mediocre, yet he didn't put his all into changing his fate. He could only live day by day in a dull and tasteless manner. At that moment, two students walked by, talking about the game they played today. The round-faced one boasted, "I'll carry you to gold rank today. My new swordsman will lead you on a killing spree." His friend, clearly a newbie who had never been to an internet cafe, looked at him with admiration. Lucian watched them, lost in thought, and then it hit him. That was it. He had craved the knowledge of this martial world, but had hidden in games, clinging to a sliver of his past life. It was like a miserable fish in a pond, yearning to swim in the vast, boundless ocean, but still attached to the comfort and stability of the pond. However, that was the past because now everything had changed. The Lucian of today had broken the surface of the water and seen the world outside. He had been given another chance to change his destiny. In this life, what he wanted to do, or what he should do, he would definitely not make the wrong choice again. Lucian looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with hope and ambition. Something seemed to affect him, and his eyes suddenly widened. Lucian's body began to show familiar signs. He realized that in a short period, he had absorbed a large amount of combat memories, and in an instant, he understood many things. The bottleneck in his fist techniques had been broken. From now on, he would make these techniques his own. Lucian clenched his fist, determined to succeed. He had taken another new step on this new path. Lucian thought of his family, his sister Hannah and his parents, and vowed to himself to keep getting stronger and seize everything he had ever wanted. The scene shifts to Lucian's next training session in his dream. A zombie with a good number of its teeth missing charged at Lucian, but its attack failed. Lucian had now reached a level where a single swing of his arm was enough to send these amateur zombies flying hundreds of meters away. This zombie took just one punch and fell flat on its face, unable to get up and counterattack. After finishing it off, Lucian couldn't help but complain. Just a zombie that was a martial artist in its past life. Even after turning into an undead, it can still use fighting techniques. After defeating it, its memories immediately flowed into Lucian. According to this zombie's memories, base 1359, which Lucian had been searching for, was right in front of him. He looked into the distance, searching. The base must have been destroyed in the black mist and the endless wave of beasts from before. Even the one beast he encountered was a bit strange. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. No sooner had he said it than several of them rushed out, showing off their pearly white teeth as they ran towards Lucian. But they had barely taken a step before they were beaten so badly they couldn't even cry. After dealing with them, his vision became clearer. As they fell, base 1359 appeared before Lucian. Finally found it. The scene of a once beautiful city, now in ruins, appeared before his eyes, surrounded by incredibly sturdy city walls. Lucian slid down through a hole in the city wall to get inside. Only when he landed did he realize how massive the wall was. Compared to it, Lucian was like an ant to an elephant. He couldn't help but exclaim, "What a huge wall!" But this was just the city. Where was the base itself? He thought to himself that if some giant beast were to pop out now, he wouldn't be surprised at all in a place like this. Lucian continued to explore the area. The deeper he went, the more surprises he found. The city walls here were about 20 meters thick. It was hard to imagine what kind of war could have destroyed a base of this scale. The more he thought, the more confusing it got. Whether it was the martial arts or the level of civilization, this world far surpassed his current one. How could such a great civilization fall to the claws of beasts? What would their future become? Lucian noticed a building that looked different from the rest. It must be a military base or a command center. In the middle of the building, there was a large hole, evidence of an attack. Looking closely, he saw someone sitting in a corner, looking like a powerful zombie. Before Lucian could get a better look or even think, a mysterious wave of power rushed towards him, giving him no time to react. Lucian fell to the ground, not understanding what it was. The person had used a shockwave to affect his opponent's mental strength. But who could possess such a powerful and intimidating force? If he could defeat this guy, he would get incredibly strong. But first, to ensure his own survival, it was best not to get close to that place. He temporarily set aside that fantasy and focused on his primary objective. First, he had to observe his surroundings. All around were just zombies aimlessly wandering. The city didn't look too dangerous. These things were at a preschool level of strength. A single kick would knock them out. Lucian went down and gave each of them a swift kick. Each one tumbled to the ground. As humans, they were bitten by zombies. Now as zombies, they couldn't bite anyone and were constantly being kicked by humans. Perhaps the most pitiful ones in this story were the mindless zombies who had no idea what was happening. After dealing with the zombies, Lucian jumped onto the wall. When he entered an apartment, he was surprised to find no signs of zombies. But the house itself was now nothing more than a garbage dump. After examining the scene, Lucian guessed that this family was having dinner when the apocalypse suddenly struck. The bowls and chopsticks on the table hadn't been cleared, and even the windows showed no signs of being broken. Lucian wondered if it was possible that no ordinary people had turned into zombies after being attacked by the black mist. Turning his head, he saw a round object emitting a blue light that caught his attention. He curiously placed his hand on it to see if it did anything. As soon as he touched it, a burst of light danced around, and then a beautiful, scantily clad woman appeared. Lucian's eyes widened. He guessed it was a 3D virtual reality image. The text on the machine began to appear. Lucian realized that this machine used the same language as him. Oh no, is this a trap? Lucian was bewildered to see that the language used here was the same as in his world. He wondered if it was because this era was more advanced and had high-tech devices that automatically translated for the user. The machine began to introduce itself. It was a scientific and technological product of Tianheng, a 16th-generation integrated artificial intelligence supported by a quantum brain named AI. She was responsible for managing the network of servers for Base 1359. Lucian was amazed. This really is future technology. He called out AI and then asked the machine to show him the latest news from the past week. The machine received the command and then scanned for a data connection. After successfully connecting, it displayed a series of important information. Among the dozens of new pieces of information, what caught Lucian's attention the most was the 10th realm of martial artists, currently in the year 11,024. He thought that if the power levels of this world and his were the same, then it was truly unimaginable what realm their martial arts development had reached. Suddenly, an image of a huge dragon with a terrifying face appeared before Lucian, charging forward to attack. Even though it was just a recorded video, it made Lucian feel terrified. In any case, the martial arts and technology of this world were just too incredible. It had developed at a speed he could hardly imagine. However, whether it was the 10th level of martial Dao or the high and sturdy city walls, nothing could be protected under the shadows and claws of the beasts. Some people even decided to abandon their home planet and sent a search team on an interstellar journey to find a second habitable planet. But on the day that human civilization completely collapsed, no inspiring information was left behind. As Lucian walked towards the chair, he thought to himself, so this Earth still couldn't escape its fate of destruction. He felt it was a pity that such a powerful and magnificent civilization could not continue to develop. After sitting down, Lucian asked AI to show him the world's history. AI received the command and began to retrieve information about world history. In just a moment, Lucian had all the information he wanted. As he watched, he pondered deeply. This world was so strong, yet it couldn't escape the fate of destruction. He wanted to see the history of this world to perhaps learn something from their experience and help his current world avoid a similar fate. The news feed began to narrate the world's history. In the first year of the Martial calendar, great rifts appeared all over the world, from which countless extraterrestrial creatures emerged. In the 34th year of the Martial calendar, the Gulong nation produced the world's first internal energy martial artist, and in the same year, the World Martial Alliance was established. Lucian broke out in a cold sweat. Wasn't this the history of the world he was living in? Lucian lowered his head in deep thought. So that's how it was. The same language and the same martial artist ranking system weren't just a coincidence. What he had just seen wasn't the destruction of another world, but the future of his own world 10,000 years later. But then, Lucian had another realization. He realized that what he had just thought might not be the same world. It could also be a coincidence or a parallel universe. Lucian quickly called out to AI, asking if she could search for information on a human. The person he wanted to find was himself. Very quickly, AI gave Lucian the answer he wanted. The screen displayed 36 results for Lucian. He didn't expect to actually find information about himself. But surprisingly, the information stated that he would only live to the age of 28 and would remain an ordinary person. His marital status was single and happy, with no prospects. His historical evaluation was also non-existent. After searching for himself, Lucian couldn't sit still. He remembered he had to find out about his sister too. He continued to command AI, continue the search for March, year 299, a person named Hannah. Unexpectedly, AI didn't have the authority to access Hannah's name. The system notified him that visitors could not query information about this martial artist. The system requested a genetic blood sample to create a user profile. Lucian stared at his hand in confusion. How was he supposed to provide a blood sample now? There had to be a syringe or something in that strange machine. Before he could figure out what to do, AI had appeared next to him, closed her eyes tightly, and bit his finger. The sensation was so real, and being touched by a beautiful girl made Lucian blush bright red. After a moment of AI's effort, a few drops of blood appeared on Lucian's hand. The system announced that the blood sample collection was complete and was now being analyzed. Everything was done, but Lucian still couldn't shake off the embarrassment from a moment ago. He thought to himself, people from the future really go all out. Even though she's just a fictional character, why does it feel so real? Suddenly, AI's appearance changed, and her expression became different. The information that appeared now was no longer blue, but had been replaced with red. The system announced that a human genetic sample had been detected, and the kindling plan was officially initiated. The system was connecting to the resources of the kindling library number 1359. After a successful connection, Lucian's clearance level was unlocked. Lucian was curious about what kindling was. Could it be the plan to leave Earth and find a new world? Lucian's personal information appeared on the screen, but it was no longer the same as what he had received initially. His complete profile was now displayed. Lucian suddenly understood that his future had changed. The information panel was no longer as bare as before. His martial arts strength was now level 4 martial artist. His clearance level had risen to 2, and his life experience had become much richer. He graduated from Baiha Academy in Baiha City with the top rank in the school and 23rd in the entire city. After that, he was admitted to Baiha Wuhan University. After graduating, He joined the military and later served in the Tiananmen military region. But one thing hadn't changed much from the old information panel. Lucian still died young, this time at the age of 37, but his marital status was still unmarried. Notably, his historical evaluation had gone from nothing to 2 stars. Lucian was stunned. Could it be that after he became stronger, his future also changed? He couldn't believe his eyes, so he double-checked the information from the AI. But according to the data, even the trajectory of his life before the age of 18 was exactly the same as what was presented here. Even his surge in strength before the college entrance exam was recorded. But in the face of such a heavy history, that small shock was not even a ripple. In the vast database of humanity, there were no geniuses. Lucian gave a faint smile, thinking that in over 10,000 years of history, there had been too many countless geniuses. So, the so-called famous names in history were just a handful of people. However, this data still had some errors. The data said that Lucian's blood essence score was 2.012 in the college entrance exam, and his recorded combat power index was 257. But that didn't account for the dream space. Based on his current speed, just practicing physical techniques, breathing methods, and maintaining his current resources, it would normally take him over 200 days to achieve this result. But if Lucian added his training and gains from the dream space, his achievements should be far greater. The thought of only ranking 23rd in the city was unacceptable to him, not even making the national list. Lucian couldn't let this stand. His name had to be known by many more people. A look of determination filled Lucian's eyes. His future could not just be this. If he continued to grow stronger, he might be able to change the future. Human civilization could not just walk into a future of destruction. Lucian clenched his fist with resolve. He would definitely change this history and turn the tide. Back in the real world, Lucian's mother was setting out breakfast for her children. Seeing Lucian still in his pajamas, she asked, "Lucian, why haven't you changed your clothes? Aren't you going to school today?" Lucian, peeling a steamed bun, replied that his teacher had allowed him to choose to study at home from now on without needing to attend class. Both his mother and Hannah found this a bit strange, especially Hannah. They went to the same school, but she had never heard of anyone being allowed to study at home. Her brother was becoming more and more incomprehensible. Lucian had finished eating and stood up to leave. "Well, I'm heading back to my room to train then." Seeing her son's recent dedication to training, his mother was overjoyed by this change. She even hurried him along. Go on. Keep up that enthusiasm." Hannah frowned and watched her brothers retreating back. Lately, she had felt that Lucian was changing more and more. He no longer had that lazy demeanor from before. He was becoming more calm and mysterious. As soon as Lucian got back to his room, he saw his phone on the desk ringing. At this hour, it wasn't hard to guess. The caller was probably Mr. Kane. Lucian picked up the phone. As expected, it was him. The teacher was calling to inform Lucian that his scholarship was ready, and he could come to the school at noon to pick it up. Lucian politely thanked the teacher. The teacher didn't forget to ask about his attendance today. "Right. Why didn't you come to school today? Didn't we need to discuss your class schedule?" Before the teacher could finish, Lucian cut him off, saying that he didn't have much time left and couldn't afford to waste it. He said it wasn't convenient to explain everything right now and told the teacher to contact him later if he needed anything. Then he hung up immediately. Lucian thought that he no longer had time to worry about being envied for being too outstanding. He had to train quickly and reveal his talent to shock everyone. To do that, he had to show more and more talent to get more resources. Lucian imagined himself standing on a mountain. He had to climb to the top as fast as possible and then find a way to change that future. The scene shifts to Lucian's dream, where he is commanding AI to display his clearance level. Then he searched for all cultivation methods, insights, and records related to the martial Tao. AI received the command and immediately began searching for the information for Lucian with all her might. After a successful search, she returned a total of 465,715 results. Faced with such a huge amount of information, Lucian felt overwhelmed. He continued to ask AI to filter for the most suitable techniques for level 1 cultivators and to extract the most valuable content. AI filtered again, this time limiting the scope to level 1 cultivators as requested by Lucian, resulting in 34,521 results. After sorting and selecting the highest-ranking results, she finally arrived at 3 unique search results. These were the best techniques from the last 10,000 years. First was the stellar body tempering art, created by Wang He, the strongest level 10 martial artist and a founder of the Martial Alliance, which was included in the kindling plan. Next was the natural breathing method, created by Yang Ezhou, the strongest level 11 martial artist of the Martial Alliance, also included in the plan. And finally, the crystal visualization method, created by Duan Yifeng, the strongest level 11 martial artist of the Martial Alliance. Lucian was shocked to realize that the creators of these techniques were all level 11. Currently, the strongest person hadn't surpassed level 9. The fact that these were level 11 was just absurd. Although it was just the introductory version, the value of these techniques was immense, almost indescribable, because they were all part of the kindling plan. It seemed the powerful figures of the Martial Alliance had long foreseen this fate, but knowing they weren't strong enough, they could only pass down the essence of their life's work, hoping that future generations could continue the kindling plan for them. But unfortunately for them, they could never have imagined that the one who found this kindling would not be their descendant, but Lucian. Setting these matters aside, Lucian's main purpose here was to train. He started with the stellar body tempering art, turning his body into a miniature universe. With one hand in a fist and the other before his chest, the first move was to clear the mind and focus the spirit. This process of refining blood essence, strengthening the body, and tempering the spirit would penetrate every single cell. Each cell would become a planet with invincible power. The blood in his veins would become a river of stars, and his internal organs would transform into a galaxy. The body density of a martial artist who cultivated to the peak, their strength and defense would reach an unimaginable level. Their blood essence would be as powerful as a star and as vast as the Milky Way. After a grueling training session, Lucian was drenched in sweat. He recalled the exercises he had done before. If the previous body tempering art had an efficiency of 1, then the stellar body tempering art's efficiency had to be 1,000 or even higher, even though at the beginning it just felt like a regular workout. In that case, he had to quickly move on to the next exercise, the natural breathing method. Lucian closed his eyes and performed it for the first time. He took a deep breath, and it felt as if thousands of flames were radiating from him. After finishing, Lucian felt as if countless flames were burning inside his body, and he could even feel himself heating up from within. This was just the first breathing method. There were many more powerful breathing attributes to come. Next up was the crystal visualization method. This technique helped to purify one's thoughts and strengthen one's will. It was related to the most mysterious part of energy in martial arts cultivation. Lucian began by sitting down and crossing his legs to try it out. This technique was probably used for cultivating mental energy. Blue lights began to radiate from him, enveloping his entire body. In an instant, Lucian fell into his own mental space. This was probably his spiritual world. In here, he saw another Lucian, wearing only a pair of pants, hugging himself with his eyes tightly shut. Spiritual will is extremely important in the martial Tao, so a martial artist needs a firm and unwavering will. Whether it's combat power or cultivation speed, they far surpass martial artists with a weak will and more desires. But after being here for a while, looking around and touching things, Lucian still didn't know how to cultivate this. In the end, he let out a frustrated sigh, looked at his motionless statue in front of him, and decided to give up. It seemed he could only practice it slowly later on. At the end of today's training session, Lucian gradually opened his eyes. As soon as he woke up, he had to pant continuously from exhaustion. Even though it was training in a dream, the feeling of fatigue was incredibly strong, not at all like a normal dream. Suddenly, he smelled something foul. Lucian looked down at his arm and saw that it was dirtier than ever. If a pretty girl were to walk into his room now, he wouldn't know where to hide his face. He held out his hand as if admiring the results of his training, thinking that this was probably the sweat his body had secreted. The effects of training in the dream really did affect his real body. This was beyond his imagination. But now, he had to take a shower. The effects of the stellar body tempering art and the natural breathing method were unexpectedly able to force out the impurities in his body. Lucian walked to his desk, picked up a bottle, and thought, "My cultivation has been progressing rapidly lately. After I get the scholarship money tomorrow, I can continue to cultivate more." The bottle Lucian was holding contained a rare pill formula from 10,000 years in the future. This bottle would not only increase the user's strength, but could even change the pharmaceutical landscape of this entire world. Lucian couldn't help but smile at the thought. At this time, at Baiha Academy, Lucian was there to collect his scholarship. He might not be quick to attend class, but when it came to collecting scholarships, speed was not an issue. Mr. Kane saw Lucian arrive so silently and couldn't help but frown. "Next time you come, at least give me a heads up." Lucian obediently and politely replied, "I will, sir. Sorry to have troubled you, Mr. Kane." Mr. Kane didn't press the issue further, just telling Lucian to leave if he had things to do. But he had to ensure he came to school at least once a week and not just disappear like that. Lucian obediently replied with a yes, like a puppy, and then left immediately. Mr. Kane watched Lucian's retreating back and felt that even though it had only been 2 days, he couldn't understand Lucian at all anymore. There was an aura about him that made it impossible for others to grasp his thoughts. On his way back, Lucian thought about how he needed to quickly solve the problem of his insufficient blood essence. Now that he had money in hand and a formula from the future world, personally concocting a supplement was the best way. Lucian recalled the prescription he had checked in the Kindling Resource Repository. In this era, the most suitable formula for him was the Spirit Foundation Blood Strengthening Decoction and the Marrow Nourishing Pill. But looking at reality, even the simplest decoction required professional equipment. A slight difference in heat or quantity would produce a completely different effect. Lucian needed a professional potion brewing room, but building one himself was impossible. The money he had now was not enough to meet this need. Lucian looked up at the pharmacy in front of him. Since he couldn't build his own lab right now, maybe he could try renting the pharmacy's equipment. Life is not a dream. The pharmacy owner, of course, refused him outright. "Are you kidding me? The compounding room is the heart of this pharmacy. Are you trying to steal my secret formulas? I'm not stupid enough to let you in." With that, he angrily slammed the door shut and told Lucian to get lost. This was the 7th pharmacy that had refused and kicked him out. This method was clearly not working. Lucian looked at the backpack in his hand. He had already bought enough ingredients for the Spirit Foundation blood strengthening decoction, and even had some extra. He looked at the card in his hand. It didn't just have the 30,000 yuan Mr. Kane had mentioned. It had 80,000. Lucian guessed the teacher thought 30,000 was too little and gave him some extra. Lost in thought, Lucian wandered into a deserted area. He was considering buying some cheap equipment online to test when another pharmacy appeared in front of him. Having lived here for 18 years, Lucian never knew there was a pharmacy in this seemingly abandoned area. Lucian pushed the door open and went inside, but the owner paid him no mind, still engrossed in his music. He didn't care who came or went. The blonde-haired owner with 3 stripes shaved on his head just told Lucian to pick what he wanted and bring it to him to pay. Lucian was trying to explain that he wasn't there to buy medicine, but before he could finish, the guy just repeated his earlier words, completely ignoring him. "Don't even think about buying and running. This shop is full of cameras, and they're high def." Lucian squinted his eyes and frowned at the clueless guy in front of him. Every other pharmacy he had been to, no matter how bad their attitude, would at least politely ask what the customer needed. But this guy was acting like he didn't want to do business at all, which really annoyed Lucian. The guy was still engrossed in watching girls shake their hips on TikTok, grinning from ear to ear, oblivious to the fact that the customer in front of him was about to teach him a lesson he'd never forget if he kept this up. Lucian pressed his hand down on the blonde guy's phone, abruptly ending his drooling session. He shot up as if ready for a fight. What the hell? You want to die? But before a second had passed, Lucian leaned in, and the guy immediately shut up, realizing he'd better keep his mouth shut if he didn't want to be on a liquid diet for the rest of his life. The guy was finally scared. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he meekly asked what Lucian was looking for. Lucian maintained his intimidating presence, slamming his hand on the counter and saying, "I'm here to ask you something. Does your pharmacy have a compounding room?" Although the vendor was pale with fear, he still managed to ask defiantly, "So what if I do? And so what if I don't?" Lucian's attitude did a complete 180. He smiled and said that if he did, he wanted to discuss a business deal with him. The guy relented and led Lucian to the compounding room at his shop. But before they entered, he blocked the door and made it clear once more. He would only let Lucian use it for a maximum of 3 hours. And one more thing. Before he could finish, Lucian cut him off, smoothly taking out his card and saying, "Pay up front, right?" The blonde guy's eyes lit up at the sight of money. He ushered Lucian inside, practically bowing. "Make yourself at home, ha ha ha." Once inside, he put on gloves and a professional lab coat to begin his first compounding session. This was also his first time doing something like this. First, he had to start by processing the raw materials. Lucian held a mutated green lizard in his hand. The first step was to remove its scales, then pour in a neutralizing agent and prepare the solution at a 35% concentration, keeping it at a stable temperature. Next, he would condense the moonstone by using a laser to adjust the visible light radiation. He separated the ingredients into 2 forms, liquid and fluid, then collected them and repeated the process. Finally, he cut 30 g of the extremely hard, mutated root of the Tuna sinensis tree, carefully controlling the dosage. The processed ingredients were then mixed according to the ratio and reaction order, after adjusting their medicinal properties. After all these steps, he finally had the Spirit Foundation blood strengthening decoction. Lucian held up a pink, galaxy-like liquid. This was his creation. Success. I can't believe it worked on the first try. This is a supplement from 1,000 years in the future. But whether it was truly a success would only be known after he used it. Lucian downed the concoction he had just created in one go. After drinking it, he didn't feel anything or taste anything special. Lucian suspected his experiment had failed. But just as he thought that, his body began to change. Lucian collapsed to the floor and let out a loud scream. Then he lay exhausted on the ground. He never expected the medicinal power to be so strong. It had just filled the long-standing deficiency in his chi and blood from his rapid advancement, and there was even some left over. Lucian thought that such a good effect without any harm to the body was truly unimaginable. Not only that, this blood-strengthening supplement had such a powerful effect, but it also had beautifying properties like increasing skin elasticity and shrinking pores. This was clearly the crystallization of 10,000 years of martial Tao wisdom. While reveling in his newfound success, a constant banging came from outside. Lucian went to open the door and grumbled at the blonde guy. "It's not time yet. What's with all the knocking?" The blonde guy's face was full of panic as he yelled, "No time to explain. Go through the back door. My boss is back." Outside, a beautiful, wealthy, and stylishly dressed woman was leisurely entering the shop. This blonde guy was in deep trouble.